Yeah. All right. We will call this meeting to order. This is a regular meeting of the Flagler Beach City Commission. Today is Thursday, May 28th. Time is 5:31 p.m. And Mayor, if you could start us with the Pledge of Allegiance, and we will follow that by a moment of silence to honor our veterans, members of the armed forces, and first responders.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, while you're getting settled, if everybody could take a moment to look at their cell phones, make sure they're on silent vibrate or turned off, please. Mayor, do you have any proclamations or awards? Fire Department? And do you want to do that now? All right. Fire Department.
Good evening, Commissioners, City Mayor, and City Manager. Tonight we're going to be very brief because of the inclement weather coming. I have firefighter Matthew Malak standing next to me. He is on duty, so we are going to do a quick recognition of his accomplishments this last probationary period. So, I'm short. Is that better? Okay, I'm not very tall. So, we're going to celebrate and bring up Matthew's parents in just a moment. First, though, Matthew came to us not from a county south, but multiple counties south. So I want to just draw attention to that and his dedication, not just our department, but our community. He continues to show up, not just for 24-hour shifts like everybody else right now, but 48-hour shifts with a smile on his face, ready and willing to serve our community. Matthew came certified as an EMT and certified as a firefighter, and while his last probationary period certainly consisted of tons of training, a lot of training, and then more training, it is certainly not over. Our job never stops, and the science of firefighting and medicine is forever changing. So tonight I have with me Andrew and Susan, his mother and father, who are going to join us to say congratulations as they pen their son for successfully completing his probationary period. So I'm going to bring him in front of you all, if you don't mind, so we can actually capture this moment. It's a pretty big deal for this young man and his parents. So we can get the picture. Susan, Andrew, you want to come on up? Great. We rehearse. Present, there you go, sir.
Yeah, Joe, want to come up for a picture?
Yep. All right. Smile.
Thank you all for allowing us this moment.
Thank
Yeah, thank you and congratulations. Yeah, y'all are about to get busy. All right, well, we will move on to deletions and changes to the agenda. And I had a request for a item inserted right at the top of general business. And this is, City Manager, can you take us through what the topic was on that?
Sure. I'm going to have Mr. Smith pass out a draft interlocal agreement between the city and of Palm Coast and Flagler Beach. This is to provide transitional firefighter coverage while we're going on. This is a formal ILA. Their attorney wanted to codify the agreement. Palm Coast will be considering this agreement on Tuesday at their meeting. So in all likelihood, because this is relatively time sensitive, I'd like you to, we can't do anything on this item tonight. You're just being presented it. But we'd like to consider a special meeting,
We can
Monday-
discuss it.
Monday
Just
night,
can't take
Tuesday
action
night.
on it.
Yeah, but get a chance, I just handed you. There's nothing, and even Drew hasn't read it yet either.
Sent it to me when I was walking out the door, so I haven't had a chance to review it.
Okay.
So we'd like to consider, if you look at your calendars, a quick special meeting, Monday night, Tuesday night, or Wednesday night.
All right, so we'll cover that under general business. That'll be right before 7A. Are y'all okay with that? Okay.
Thank you.
Any other changes or deletions to the agenda? All right. All right, we'll open this up for public comment. Citizens are encouraged to speak. These are items that are not on the agenda. Comments should be limited to 3 minutes. Please address myself, the chair. And public comment. Any items not on the agenda? We have a light crowd today. Yeah, Sky has some comments. All right, we'll see none. We will close public comment. We will move on to consent agenda, which is minutes of the meeting of May 14th, 20. Wow, that's an interesting. It's not 28. I just caught that. Let me see if our. So it'd be 26. Yeah. The packet is correct. It was just the item was labeled. So, Drew, do we even have to have as amended on?
No, you don't need it as amended, it's just your agenda that was.
Right. Okay, discussion on consent agenda. All right, no roll call needed. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye?
Oh.
Oh, yeah, well, that would help.
I'll make a motion that we approve, consent agenda.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous. We will move on to general business, and we'll start with the change that we had, which is the Palm Coast piece of literature that was just handed out, and it sounds to me, City Manager, like we need to have a date for a special meeting.
Yeah, with your concurrence and Acting Chief Five Ash is here. She's been coordinating this with Chief Berryhill from Palm Coast. So it was sent to us about an hour, 2 hours ago, shortly, and indicated that the Palm Coast City Attorney will present it to their City Council on Tuesday. So it is to basically cover our C shift. We'll have Palm Coast firefighters and equipment providing support during, so 1 out of every 3 days. And it's for a limited time until we get staffed up. Fortunately, we have 7 applicants testing for a variety of positions at the fire department tomorrow. So there is interest, and we should be able to make it through this transition with less disruption over the course of the next month.
So what is the window that you would like to do this? I mean, would next Thursday work?
Next Monday.
Next Monday.
Yeah, do do you want to come to the podium and offer any insight into the timing? I'm not sure when exactly C shipped in. We will have a Palm Coast support starting tomorrow, but you can clarify.
I can. So we have Flagler County Emergency Services, Flagler County Fire Rescue, that's going to be stationed at our facility tomorrow. Right now we're running, when we need 9, we have 5 running. So they are working 48 hours on, 24 off, which is the opposite of what's supposed to be happening. They're supposed to be working 24 hours on and 48 hours off. So to reduce some of that burden and to not take down staffing to where our community is still being served, we have coverage for tomorrow. That's a temporary plan. So I would like a formal plan put in place. That way we are not going day by day. That's not conducive to anybody. So there was initial conversation last month when everything started to occur, that Palm Coast was willing and able to step up, but they had not received any type of formal documentation. That proposal was sent over by myself after being submitted to the city manager, along with the cost analysis, which can be provided upon request, but it is also outlined in the document that you have in front of you. So what this does is it basically takes that burden off while I work on with our team getting us back to full staff. We do have 7 applicants coming in tomorrow, and we'll see what happens. I'm very hopeful that we'll be able to fill several positions. Our postings are staying open. The application postings are staying open until all positions are filled.
Okay. And we have a proposal for Monday. I cannot make Monday, but if y'all can, then can still move forward. How's everybody feel about that?
I can do Monday.
Yeah, do whatever I want.
There you go.
Just want being retired.
We could do 5. Is 5 good with you? You need time to get back from work?
5's good. I can make it happen.
Okay.
Okay. Any other discussion we need to have on this ahead of time?
No, sir, please go ahead and review what's there. If you have any questions, like I said, Mr. Smith is going to review it himself. There may be some subtle changes, but I think it's a pretty straightforward document.
All right.
I have one question, just to put out there. Did we ask the county? Because I know we pay county. Is that,
We did. So there was the previous fire chief and the current fire chief with Flagler County. They had a verbal agreement, not a written agreement. We have been struggling to get them to fill shifts, which have continued to burden our crews right now. So with that, they also have their shifts that they have to cover, which has come with multiple mandations on their side. Palm Coast is an asset that has not been tapped into, and they have the available resources along with the apparatus to staff up. So the willingness to share that burden between the other 2 agencies is best for all involved.
so the county doesn't have enough folks to cover it?
So they are unwilling to, they've been unsuccessful filling multiple vacancies. Yes.
Okay.
Although they will be there tomorrow. Tomorrow they are filling it, but other days they have not been able to.
That's all I got.
All right. Any other discussion on this? And we have a consensus on Monday at 5 o'clock for this meeting. That's all you, Commissioner Spradley?
Yes.
You're leading it.
Try to handle my best.
All right. It's going to be a tough one. All right. We'll move on. So thank you.
You're welcome.
We'll move on to General Business 7A, Resolution 2026-40. Drew?
Resolution 2026-40, a resolution by the City Commission of the City of Flagler Beach, Florida, approving the purchase of a 2026 Ford Ranger from Allen J. Fleet Sales in an amount not to exceed $36,343, utilizing building department funds, providing for conflict and an effective date.
All right. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before we get into that, joining us this evening is the city's new building official, Mr. James Urquhart, or Glenn Urquhart, sorry. So he's here. He's been well received by the staff and doing some good community outreach as well. So we're glad to have him on board. So this is a new vehicle utilizing the building funds. We've transferred some of the larger vehicles, which were part of the building department fleet to the facilities department as well as streets and stormwater. Because of all the hiring we did, we need the larger vehicles to support those crews. So we're transferring those vehicles to those departments and purchasing a smaller vehicle for the building department to use. So staff recommends the purchase in the amount of approximately $36,000 using building department funds.
All right. Discussion or questions for the city manager?
I do.
Commissioner Cunningham?
If you are taking a couple of trucks away from the building department, I assume they were bought with building department funds originally?
Correct.
If you transfer them, does wherever the department is going to have to pay for whatever the cost is of the trucks they're getting?
Correct. Ms. Harlan will make that transfer. A lot of them have actually been depreciated out, or it's basically an accounting transfer, not a cash transfer, as they move from one department to the other. But they're
Or
looking,
whatever the current
I'm sorry?
value, whatever the current value is.
Correct.
Correct. Okay. I just didn't see that referenced anywhere. And that fella's too big for a Ranger. He needs a half-ton at least. My opinion.
Make a motion to approve resolution 2026-40.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. I'll open this up to public comment. Any members of the public wish to speak on this agenda item? Seeing no one, we'll close public comment. Further discussion? And if you call the roll, please.
Commissioner Santori,
Yes to motion?
Commissioner Spradley,
Yes to the motion.
Commissioner Sherman,
Yes.
Commissioner Cunningham,
Yes.
Chair Cooley.
Yes to the motion. Motion passes unanimous. Item 7B, Resolution 2026-41. Drew?
Resolution 2026-41, a resolution by the City Commission of the City of Flagler Beach, Florida, approving reimbursement to CRE KL Seminole Woods owner, LLC, for power pole relocation costs necessary to service the city well pursuant to the well site relocation agreement and providing for an effective date.
All right, City Manager?
This is part of the ongoing efforts out at the well field. That you should have received a revised resolution. There was a transposition error, transposing the 1 and the 9 when the company sent the invoice to the city. You should have the revised version. So we were required to relocate service of an existing power pole as we move forward with well field expansion. So this was part of a development agreement that the city had entered into with the Grand Landings as indicated in 2022.
All right, discussion.
I just had a question for the city
Commissioner
manager. Yeah, just, I think we had kind of talked about it earlier in the week, but are there any other, like unforeseen things that might be, that we need to account for like this? I mean, it's a $118,000 move that we had to move a power pole. I understand we have to, be compliant and stuff, but do you see anything as we expand this, our water well capacity and stuff like that? Do you see any other?
I believe we have 2 well sites, number 18 and 18 and 19, that are being designed and surveyed right now. But we have improved the relationship with that developer out there, and we'll continue to explore additional well sites. And all of these are in the general vicinity of the airport. So we've had discussions with the airport director as well, but this is all part of the city's consumptive use permit for continuing to have water capacity.
Thank you.
I did,
Yeah.
I did see another item. I can't remember if it was on the, the second meeting in June or the first meeting, but there is another item in there.
Just to piggyback off what Commissioner Sherman was saying, just for budgeting purposes, I don't know if having a meeting with them or anything would help, just as a forward-looking thing, but every couple of years we'll get something, that they'll come to us and say, hey, we want new landscaping, or hey, this or that, and it just seems to come out of nowhere with no rhyme or reason, and then we end up having to react to it, but the money never was budgeted. Just more for planning purposes.
I think the landscaping, according to Mr. Raymer, that was because Palm Coast changed their landscape requirements. So that had nothing to do with the developer of the property. Palm Coast, our well sites have to be adequately screened. So that's what that was related to. Palm Coast changed their ordinance about what type of screening had to be around the well sites. So that's what that was related to. But Yeah, I think this, there might be another minor issue, but for the most part, we're moving forward with the well field and the expansion of the wells.
All right, thank you. Further discussion?
Make a motion to, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Is it just for one pole?
It was for demolition and relocation. So you had poles coming out, and then you had underground line going in. So poles coming out from old well and new line going into new well.
Cause the old power line used to run right through that new development in there. And all that was gonna have to be relocated anyway. I was just curious if this was just for one pole. Seems expensive. But everything does.
Further discussion? Look for motion.
Motion to approve resolution 2026-41.
Second the motion?
All right, we have a motion and a second. We'll open this up to public comment. Any members of the public wish to speak on this agenda item? And see no one will close public comment. Further discussion? Any look for motion? Not a motion. Roll call. Your mic on? Oh, it was a different one.
It's a utility location, but it says the city's new plant, so it might be for wastewater. So, Commissioner Spradley,
Yes to the motion.
Commissioner Sherman,
Yes.
Commissioner Cunningham,
Yes.
Commissioner Santori,
Yes to motion.
Chair Cooley.
Yes, the motion. Motion passes unanimous. 7C, Resolution 2026-43. Drew?
Resolution 2026-43, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Flagler Beach, Florida, amending the employment agreement of the city manager to remove any automatic renewal provision, requiring an annual performance evaluation and annual review of the employment agreement by the City Commission, providing for implementation, and providing for an effective date.
All right, Commissioner Cunningham, this is your item. If you could take us through the intro.
Well, it's basically everything that it says in the, discussion points. Changing it from, I can see the 3-year locked in, having to move here and having to buy a house and all that, but just like you were saying in last meeting, cities don't typically have a renewing contract every year, automatic renewing contract. And that's why I got it in here. That's pretty much it.
All right, Commissioner Spradley?
Yeah,
I'm just going to add a couple of points, just so everybody understands the operation of what's in there. So the way that it actually operates, it would be accomplishing a couple of things in line with what Commissioner Cunningham introduced, that it would be providing notice to city manager of non-automatic renewal for this upcoming term, because you're outside, you have time within that 60-day period that you're allowed to say no automatic renewal this year, and then the further direction would be to amend the contract to take out automatic renewal for future terms, assuming that there was renewal of the contract. That new contract then would have to come before you for approval.
Aren't you just starting, sorry, Commissioner Spradley, aren't you just starting, like, the negotiations over at that point, kind of?
By not having automatic renewal, you certainly are inviting negotiations.
Okay.
I mean, but the effect is, essentially, the effect of not having the automatic renewal is to do that. So, I mean, it's not, I wouldn't necessarily couch that in negative terms, but the reality of it is the automatic renewal works both ways. You know, once either party can say, I don't want to automatically renew, that typically means there's something that may be renegotiated in that contract. So I don't see that as a harm.
That's an option, right?
Correct.
Yeah. I mean, if there's nothing need to be changed, then nothing will change. Okay.
Go ahead, Scott.
I read this as having two different suggested rates of action, or two different kinds of action to be taken, one of which I don't think can be without the city manager's approval. Because when I read it, and it says in a couple places it calls for amending the current employment agreement to remove that provision. If you turn to the contract, oh, wait, where in the,
resolution.
okay, I'm looking at the staff report. Let me go to it. Well, the second line of the title, amending the employment agreement.
In the body of the resolution, I understand, but ultimately there is direction being given to amend, but it's in that not renegotiation, but the renewal aspect. So the future term is what would be the amendment would be to the future term, not to existing term.
And I'm looking at section 2 in the middle, hereby directs the city attorney to prepare an amendment to the city manager employment agreement. And I just don't think the current agreement can be amended without the consent of both parties.
The way I interpret that, and I actually revised it to say what it says there,
Yeah.
is that the direction would be for me to prepare that amendment for the future, for the next
All right,
term.
that makes sense. I just didn't read it that way. Yeah.
Commissioner Sherman?
Yeah, I actually spoke to the city attorney about this, and I appreciate Commissioner Cunningham bringing this forward because I think to me that this doesn't flow properly. As we kind of talked about, looking to maybe move Dale's performance evaluation further out, even before August, and basically have what we discussed, 60 to 90 days prior to the automatic renewal. We would have a good place to say, okay, you're meeting the mark, you're not meeting the mark, we will go forward and renew your contract. Or, I don't know what the stipulation would be there with that. I know it might be a little bit different than the rest of the staff that gets their performance evaluations, Dale, in August, September, you guys do those? But I'm thinking maybe we do, just the way this flows right now, to me, this doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, it's like if you work in the private sector or any other typical sector, you're going to have your performance evaluation, and if you're meeting the mark in your performance evaluation, then you're going to get your contract. If you're under contract, your contract's going to be good. And then when it comes time for merit increases or what have you, it's a threefold process. So my thought process here is that we would move things around to make it to where it flows a lot more. Because again, I think we're just piecemealed it together. And I was brought to my attention why it was done that way years ago. Under when Commissioner Muley was up here, but I think now I would like to see it, if you guys are okay with it, maybe have this flow a little bit better.
Well, go ahead. I mean, I hear what you're saying, and it does to a degree to me seem like you're putting the cart before the horse, because if you have a provision such as the current contract has, that you must give 60 days notice of the intention not to renew, then it would seem that a performance review should be had ahead of that rather than after that. It doesn't make any sense to me at all that you have a deadline to notate to the employee that you're not going to renew 2 months before he's reviewed. So that part doesn't make sense. I haven't gotten my arms around yet. I haven't considered it about taking that provision out for future contracts. And I know that's part of what the agenda item is, as I now understand it, but I don't know about that.
And just to kind of maybe caption what Commissioner Sherman was referencing in the conversation we had, that was, I think, the context of that was if there was a desire to keep automatic renewal, it might benefit everyone to move that evaluation ahead of the time, to give yourself time, not just between evaluation and renewal, but evaluation and notice period for automatic renewal if you were keeping automatic renewal, so that you were having the evaluation sometime to give you plenty of time to have a meeting or 2 meetings before you came up on that 60-day notification period before automatic renewal.
Well, that makes sense to me, because without an automatic renewal and without a performance review ahead of that deadline, then by giving the notice of intention to not renew before the performance review, that's an invitation for the city manager to start looking elsewhere before even anything of merit has even been considered. So that's my thought about that.
So, I'll give you all a little bit of background. We, years ago, had a segment of time go by where we didn't even give the city manager an evaluation at all. This was back under Larry, and then all of a sudden it was like, hey, we haven't given our city manager an evaluation in a long time. We need to do this, and we had this discussion about when is the appropriate time to do the evaluation. And it was decided on fall because then you have the close of the year. So you can say, here's where your year ended, these were the things that were accomplished, this stuff met budget, this stuff didn't, and you had a little bit of tangible stuff, we'll call, for lack of a better term, KPIs, of things that the city manager, at the close of the year, you were able to evaluate them on. So you have that, and then you have this contract, which is about 6 months opposite of it. And so it really, I don't view this item as much as the automatic renewal thing. I view it as, when is an appropriate time to do the evaluation? The drawbacks of doing the evaluation ahead of where it is currently, where the contract is you're only halfway through the year. So you're going to evaluate the city manager halfway through the year. It's going to be very hard to say you didn't accomplish this stuff this year because you still have half a year to go. So your options are, you can move the evaluation, or the other thing is you could, possibly, city attorney, we could do a contract modification where we change the contract term so that date is in the fall at a time where it makes more sense, where you can do an accurate evaluation at the end of the fiscal year, 60 or 90 days or whatever it's required ahead of that window. But then you're changing the contract. But you're doing a productive change, because let's say, and it doesn't even apply to Dale, so let's say we have a city manager that we employ that for some reason isn't hitting the mark. You close the books on the fiscal year, you do the evaluation, and you're still, whatever that time frame is, out from the contract renewal. All of that is consecutive. It just makes sense to do it that way. It's a wise thing to do, and this is outside of the current city manager. This is just our process if we want to fix it. That would be my suggestion. We don't, and this is only my opinion, I don't think that we need to necessarily focus on the contract shouldn't automatically renew, because if you follow the process correctly, if you have issues that need addressed, they're going to get addressed in the order, and then the contract wouldn't renew anyways, because city manager wouldn't be hitting that mark, and everything is in the proper order at least. The issue is, we have budget at one time, we have an evaluation at one time, and none of it currently makes sense or is in a good spot. And I hope that made sense to y'all at least.
It makes sense to me, and it sounds like a great resolution, because you, on the one hand, there's no need for the contract to necessarily run concurrent with fiscal year. And so this allows the city manager to get reviewed at the end of the fiscal year. And then to me, that goes concurrent with having the automatic renewal, because if you elect to terminate instead of renew and give the notice, then that can all happen in the sequence that it needs to happen, in my view. So I like that approach.
I just view it as, this is more of a process improvement thing on our end as a city versus, addressing anything current. I'm looking more at the larger thing of why do we have everything where it is, and where it is currently is not the best spot.
I think putting it in that order makes sense. The other thing about the resolution, it speaks to having an annual review and require that to be in the contract, and it already is in the contract. I mean, if you look at the contract which is attached to the resolution, and you look at page or section 14, performance evaluation, employer shall annually review the performance of employees subject to a process, form, criteria, and format for the evaluation, which shall be determined by employer. Employer shall make reasonable efforts to conclude this performance review in August or each year as soon thereafter as is reasonably possible. That's in the contract. So I'm not sure what else needs to be in there, because it's in there. Thank you.
I guess steps to fix what we have is basically a broken process as a city is going to require a piece of contract negotiation though, right, city attorney?
to change the term. The term currently ends, it was set from a year from the time his employment began, or the year was running, the term was running tied to date of start of service, so you would have to amend that date, so your next term would actually be, if you were, probably the best way to do it would be to extend out beyond the year, so to where in the back end of the year you were moving it to, you would add that number of months to the next term of contract.
So the upcoming term would need just pushed out. Am I stating that correctly?
Correct, and then if you, whether it was automatic or just annual renewals by vote, an annual renewal from that point would be annual from whatever that date is.
Well, and honestly, you could leave, you don't even have to mess with the renewals anyways, because that would get discussed under the evaluations that got done at the end of the fiscal year.
Correct, I didn't mean to complicate it, I was just saying that the renewal period, if it was a one-year renewal period, once you made that adjustment to new year one, everything after that year would fall into sequence with whatever the term of that year, of whatever the new term was,
Right.
was all I meant.
But honestly, you don't even, the concept of the contract auto renewing, changing it to make it non-renewable is kind of negated because you're fixing the process macro. If there's a performance issue, your time sequence is now appropriate if you needed to take action.
You would be having your evaluation close in time to when you'd be needing to make that decision, correct?
Right. So if potentially a future city manager was struggling, that discussion can be had at the time of the evaluation, and it has a good flow. And this is just trying to propose a fix because, and honestly, if there was ever a city manager change in the future, just for those of y'all that are going to be sitting up here, keep that in mind, that when there's a contract made, no matter when they're hired, that renewal should go after the fiscal year, so the timing is good. And Penny, that's probably you. It would be you sitting there. You'd be like, hey guys, you need to do this. No, you're forever. Penny is forever. Commissioner Santori.
So, off of what you said, imagine there was a city manager termination, and we're looking for a new one. And what's that experience been like trying to hire one in the middle of the budget season or the early part of it?
The time of year, from what I've found after being through multiple, is time of year doesn't really make a big difference. It complicates things because budget will tie you up. For instance, when we made a change before, see, the problem is when you're making a city manager change, most of the time you can't really have foresight on that. It's something that's almost immediate. It's like things are off the tracks, we got to make a change now. So, for instance, when we brought in Mr. Abels, we went right into budget.
Right.
And that was almost all consuming on the time that he was here. But the actual time of year, I don't think there's any way to plan it. It's usually there's something that finally triggers it that pushes things too far. At least that's what I found in my experience. Commissioner Sherman, you've been through people.
I think it was in the instance we had before it was the mismanagement of budget and the execution of, we were told one thing that, things need to be done and we gave them those means to do it and they weren't getting done. And so that, I think, pushed a lot of us over the edge at that point in time to make that change. And as Commissioner Cooley had mentioned, when we brought in Mr. Abels, that's his sole focus really was that. And then in that meantime, I believe we brought in Mr. Martin over the course of that summer because we let the previous city manager go in February, and then there was an election. There was a lot of moving parts, but we were able to get through and have a decent budget season. Everything seemed to go okay.
Yep. In my experience, first of all, my first 6 months of being elected were involved with finding a new city manager. That's like all we did, along with budgetary concerns. But I would agree. I don't think the start of whenever there would be the need to search for a city manager, I just don't see that tied to the budget in any material way. For one thing, it's not something that happens overnight. It takes months. It could be a month. It could be 8 months. So I don't know that tying it to the budget, tying a term to the budget would have any real positive impact or any impact at all.
Did that answer your question?
It does, and I'm in agreement that, you know, we should be reviewing this every year, and we should align the contract review with the evaluations.
So, this does involve a little bit of negotiation and agreement on both parties. City manager, what's your take on just timing of this? This is more of a process improvement thing than it is anything else.
Right, and I'll look forward to renegotiating the contract if we get to that point.
Well.
Again, as Commissioner Spradley
yeah.
said, it's by mutual agreement of both
Yeah.
parties. This is a binding contract, and I have interest as well.
And I think it's fair. I think his answer is fair.
Yeah.
I wouldn't expect anyone to say on the spot, well, I'm going to do this or do that or.
Yeah. I just view it as, it's a process that has to get fixed. I don't see it as relevant to now, in my mind, but, so, comments. Commissioner Sherman, Commissioner Cunningham,
Well, my whole point was to not to automatic renew before the review was done, because then it would be too late. I mean, you're stuck with it for paying for a year for everything, or whatever the severance is, or legal also, concerns. That's the only reason I was wanting to take the auto renewal out, but if the contract aligns with the performance review, that would be pretty much the same thing anyway. If that sounds right, if that made sense.
To me, and maybe I'm wrong on this, Eric, or Commissioner Cunningham, or Drew can correct me, it sounds like what we're, starting point may be in trying to accomplish a cure of a situation that has some logistical aspects to it, would be to consider extending the current contract of the city manager by 2 or 3 months and have a, perhaps have a 60-day, same 60-day notice provision that if it's not going to be renewed, fall in line with when budget season is. I mean, that's one way to approach it, I guess. So, changing the term of the contract to align such that the performance review occurs during budget season, and then the end of the contract occurring a couple or 3 months later seems to be one way to approach it and fill in the details from there. That's all.
All right. So, let's look at this particular agenda item. So the pieces in here are, first piece is to, because I want to take action on this item that's here. So we have remove any automatic renewal provision, require an annual performance evaluation, and then an annual review of employment agreement by the city commission, which would be us just reviewing it and decide if we want to start any type of negotiations as far as a change go. So as far as those items that are on this item here, what do you all want to do with it? Because I can tell you that the items that are on here, I have concerns about having a discussion every year about the city manager's contract. I think to me, it's unneeded business. If there's an issue, it gets addressed in the evaluations, and then it gets talked about. But other than that, like, be talking about the city manager's contract every year. I think that could also have an adverse effect where it could start to get pretty expensive if we're going to stay competitive in the marketplace. Y'all got thoughts on this?
I mean, I wind up at the same place, however I look at this, given the concerns that were expressed tonight about it being out of sequence I'm fine with leaving in the automatic renewal with the 60-day notice to the employee if it's not going to be renewed, provided that the 60-day notice period does not begin until after we've evaluated him. So we'd just be moving the deadline. So that way you have the evaluation. If you're happy with the city manager, then the contract automatically renews. If not, you give that notice, and then 60 days later, you're done. And to me, that still has the city commission retain the right to take action if necessary, but also in a fair process, only after the review is conducted. And then this all would occur in such a way as the reviews happen at or before budget season begins. So that way you can make plans going forward. So in summary, that would be keep the automatic renewal provided that the 60-day deadline that you have to invoke non-renewal occurs only after the evaluation, which should be given at or before budget season. If that makes sense too.
It does, and the math, or the calendaring I've been doing in my head, fiscal year ends September 30th. So that would mean your first meeting in October, if you had performance evaluation of city manager at your first meeting of October, that would leave you usually don't have 2 meetings in December, you usually have the one, so that puts you at your 1 meeting in December. If you had a December 31 term, and if you just tied it to the calendar year, that would leave you with your 1 meeting your typical 1 meeting in December would be your meeting that you would have to have that consideration, would be your time to have that evaluation, or at least would be the end of the actually, take that back. Never mind, my math doesn't work. It all fell apart in my head. So you'd actually probably be looking into the next calendar year in order to give yourself that necessary time.
Right, but we have our budget meetings at the beginning of August.
I was thinking to the end of that budget process. If you wanted to do that before you got to the end of the budget process, you could move those evaluations up. I was trying to time it to after you were done with budget process, and it was pushing me to the end of the year, and I was trying to figure out how to fit it into a calendar year.
Okay.
But in essence, that's almost making those discussion points that Commissioner Spradley and I talked about, those are almost a different style agenda item. I don't think that would tie into this agenda item.
Only the overlap would be this, is if your desire at the end of this meeting tonight is that the next time you see the next term of the city manager's contract lines these dates up, if, I'm sure it will be me, I go to city manager and say, how about this date? The city manager says, I can work with that date, but I have other things I want too, and the whole thing falls apart. We're all living with this contract for another year. Because after today, we're all moving out of that 60-day notice period.
All right, let's focus on this item. So this resolution as written, where y'all at on it? You want to make a motion? Commissioner
If the
Cunningham?
motion's made, the July 27th date is gonna, if it doesn't pass, is gonna stay, right? That's July 27th is gonna be the end of the 3-year contract.
The contract term is the contract term is the contract term currently, correct?
And the automatic renewal will also be at that date.
Correct. And that was the point that I was just making.
And the performance review wouldn't be until after the contract was already renewed, right?
Correct.
So what happens then? You're stuck with what's in, I mean, you're gonna be, if it can be amended where the date is extended for from the July 27th to whatever day after, that's what I think it should be. That was the whole point of doing it to begin with, because it was too far away ahead of performance review.
Commissioner Cunningham, is what you're saying, extend or consider extending the contract term so that the performance evaluation can occur first, but still have the 60 days in which to decide not to renew. Is that what you're saying?
Can I take a crack? Can I try it? I think I understand what you're saying. Do you mind if I put words in your mouth?
No, go ahead.
I think what Commissioner Cunningham is saying, I think he's saying something similar to the point I was making, that if we move forward from today, and there's not notice given of an intent not to renew for the purpose of renegotiating, and then there's no guarantee that there is that movement, one, and I think where Commissioner Cunningham is actually expanding on the point I was making, is that it still means that this year, the performance evaluation, you're relying on the performance evaluation from last August to make the determination. Now, I think that's part of the point that he's making also. And
Mhm.
okay.
So if we move forward with this today and the contract doesn't renew, then we have to come up with a new contract. And that means we can no longer use this current renewing one as something to compare it to and say which is better. So there could be scenarios that happen where he asks for an increase that we have to now discuss. There could be scenarios where he asks for another 3 years or another 5 years. I'm just hypothetical, obviously. So, you know, I feel like there's not enough time here to do this. But I do want us to have this discussion every year around the evaluations. So I'm leaning towards letting the contract renew, and then we can discuss this over the next year.
Yeah, and we kind of muddied the water with talking about the broken process we have at the city, which is another discussion. It's not this particular one, but it's more of a it's a macro discussion about how do we fix things.
And what I would point out on that process too is there are different ways of skinning that cat. And so let's say the worst case scenario that I was kind of laying out, where it's, you know, that term, you know, the parties can't reach agreement on an extended term, so that you move the term to fit your existing evaluation period. You have complete control over when you can always do that evaluation period earlier, by August, but you could do it earlier. So you could still accomplish that even without the contract amendment.
All right, so back to this item. What do we want to do with this item? Commissioner Cunningham, I'll defer to you because this is your item. Make a motion on it, or what you want to do with it?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2026-43.
Ryan, do we have a second? I'm going to second it. The reason why I'm seconding it is because I want everybody to vote on record on this, about, you know, how we move forward.
All right, with that, I'll open it up for public comment. Anyone want to weigh in on the current motion before the court? Please come up, give your name and address. You have up to 3 minutes to speak about
Hi,
this
Ron
issue.
Carl Waldman here, resident on Lambert Avenue. I think that Commissioner Cooley makes a really good point with Commissioner Santori, which is if you need to terminate somebody, the annual evaluation is not the place to do that, and this is not a resolution written to do that, right? So the city and the residents don't want to carry a city manager for another year if the intent is to terminate that person, right? So an annual evaluation is to improve in performance, and hopefully that's a peer review also, not just from top down. And the point would be to give feedback, not to terminate, right? You need to terminate somebody at any point where there's a corruption issue or there's some sort of malfeasance, right? So I think you guys are mixing two things that don't go together. Sorry, I'm sorry, I'm an attorney, so I have that.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment on this topic? All right, seeing none, I'll close public comment. I mean, my comment is that I don't think it's lost on the commission that regardless of what action we take, the city manager can be terminated at any time. This doesn't affect that at all. Whenever the evaluation is scheduled or not, we don't have to wait, you know, so that anyone can do that.
To answer that question, the distinction, the contract term and what some cities will do is they will allow it if it's, we don't want the city manager out today, but at the end of the term, we're going to look for a new city manager. What that avoids often is the payment of severance payments, I guess. And so by allowing one to expire versus terminating during term, you avoid having to pay severance. So it would allow an option for that case where it doesn't rise to the level of termination in contract term, but we're going to allow the contract to expire. So that's really the distinction that you're talking
Right,
about.
so
here.
it's a matter of saying, well, we'll do it this way, that way, we'll avoid 20 weeks of severance. And I don't have an appetite for that, but that's just me.
Just for clarification, since those are certainly interesting points to the public, but not what you were talking about today, if it's a for-cause termination, that also avoids severance. So if we were talking a for-cause termination, that would be a third type of termination we'd be talking about at that point.
Is there any other, discussion, the board, RJ?
Yeah, I mean, that comment made me think also that the performance evaluations is time to do performance and get feedback, and now we have 9 months after to basically to know if the city manager is meeting that mark, and so maybe the timing isn't that bad if we don't see improvement. So,
Well, you can always terminate.
yeah, and again, if the contract expiring not only prevents severance payout, it probably helps with liability. Correct?
It's hard to challenge a contract that's expiring. You're not making an affirmative act to terminate a contract. You're just allowing its life to end.
Any other discussion from the board? All right, seeing none. Penny, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Cooley,
No.
Commissioner Sherman,
No.
Commissioner Cunningham,
Yes.
Commissioner Santori,
No.
gavel holding Mayor Spradley.
No, thank you. Motion fails 4-1. Turn the gavel.
Thank you. All right, we will go to item 8A, ordinance 2026-09. Drew?
Ordinance number 2026-09, an ordinance of the City of Flagler Beach, Florida, amending Article 5, Development, Design, and Improvement Standards of the City of Flagler Beach Land Development Regulations relating to utility services, amending Section 5.03.02, deferment of charges due to broken water lines, etc., to provide for credits or adjustments in utility charges under certain conditions, establishing procedures for determining eligibility, calculating and approving adjustments, creating Section 5.03.43, data logs, to provide for the collection, transmission, and review of water meter data, providing for authorized access for inspection, and establishing water meter data collection, transmission, and review procedures, providing for codification, severability, conflicts, and for an effective date.
All right, city manager.
This is second. Yeah, this is second reading. There's been no changes, but Ms. Nobre is here to clarify any questions that you have.
Want to come up and give us cliff notes?
Good evening. So within the utility billing department, we run data logs. This is in case that a resident feels that if their water consumption may be over than what their normal bill is. So during that time, we go out, we do them periodically for them while doing bill review. However, we have had some residents that seem to want to, for lack of better terms, take advantage of that situation, and they will call and say, hey, I adjusted my irrigation. Oh, now I've done this, now I've done that, and we will repeatedly be out at that residence multiple times just to assist them. While this is not to negate a customer to call and ask for help, it's just kind of to get rid of some of those overzealous customers. While we're actively working with a leak, we want them to call. We want them to talk to us and say, hey, I've done this, can you double check? Because we don't want wasted water, especially nowadays with our shortage. So that's just to kind of assist customers and give them more detail on being able to, hey, this is your fourth time, this is your fifth time. The villages, their first time is free, and then after that they charge $100, whether you have a leak or not. So this is complete opposite of that. We just kind of want to get some control over it. We do about 75 to 80 data logs to do that, and that's within the time frame of just the billing period, not a total of each month. So during that time of billing, the girls physically have to go out, stand over the meter, and get that read. It is then imported into the office. We then review it, analyze it, and speak to the customer about it. So it's just to kind of cut down on the excessiveness.
Any questions for our utility billing manager while she's up here? Commissioner Santori.
Sorry to put you on the spot. I should have emailed this question earlier, but how much in projected savings to the city do you think this will bring to us?
So it's more of when they're asking for it, we have one particular new subdivision that is working on their irrigation, and during one of their HOA meetings, they said, call the city and ask for a log. And I got about 50 requests in one day, and this is kind of what preempted that. We don't want residents to not ask for help. It's just to kind of swell the additional excessive. It does take time away from other jobs, leaks, any concerns, and it costs the city for us to pay the person to go out and do it, drive the vehicle, no matter where it's at in the city, plus wear and tear on the vehicle, the streets, and stuff like that. So it can be an astronomical savings if we're not excessively doing unnecessary work.
Any other questions for utility billing manager? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Further discussion, or city manager, do you have anything for that?
No, sir.
All right, discussion?
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2026-09.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any citizens wish to speak on this agenda item? All right, seeing none, we'll close public comment. Further discussion? All right, Penny, if you call the roll, please.
Commissioner Sherman?
Yes.
Commissioner Cunningham?
Yes.
Commissioner Santori?
Yes to motion?
Commissioner Spradley?
Yes, the motion.
Chair Cooley?
Yes, the motion. Motion passes unanimous. And we'll go to 8B, ordinance 2026-12. Drew?
Ordinance 2026-12, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Flagler Beach, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Flagler Beach related to credits and adjustments to utility bills, providing for severability, codification, conflicts, and an effective date.
City manager.
I will invite Ms. Nobre back up to introduce this resolution. This is first reading.
Long time no see.
So this is basically just so that we have more control over excessive asking for credits. We had several within the past couple weeks where a resident, instead of contacting the city when they noticed a leak or an issue, they contacted an outside company. The outside company repaired it, even though it was on the city side, and then they turned around and asked for us, hey, can you give me the credit back for this repair? They should come to the city first. I mean, we do try to make it public knowledge. If you have low water pressure, if you think you have a leak, if you have anything like that, contact us first so we can research whether it's on the city side or the customer side, and then we can go from there and analyze it. So that was kind of the jump on this. The other part of it is to not allow credit when there is no service provided. So if we have a hurricane, if we have a water main break, and then we have a resident say, hey, I didn't have water for 3 days, or hey, I didn't have garbage service for 3 days because there was a storm, so we were unable to provide that service, and then them asking for a credit and us having to partially credit the entire city during a hurricane. So this is just kind of to set the basis for that groundwork.
All right. Questions for the utility billing manager while she is up here? All right. Get off easy tonight.
Thank you.
All right, further discussion on this one? All right, look for motion.
Make a motion that we approve ordinance 2026-12.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. I'll open this up for public comment. Any members of the public wish to speak on this agenda item? All right, seeing no more, close public comment. And Penny, if you call the roll, please.
Commissioner Cunningham?
Yes.
Commissioner Santori?
Yes to motion?
Commissioner Spradley?
Yes, the motion.
Commissioner Sherman?
Yes.
Chair Cooley?
Yes, the motion. Motion passes unanimous. We will go to staff reports. City Attorney.
A couple of things just for all of you, since a couple have asked questions. I have reviewed the docket on the say, okay, it's just since insurance defense is handling it, so I can stay up to speed. And a motion to dismiss was filed. A motion to dismiss the complaint was filed this week, and notice of hearing was set for July 8th. So that will be the next time there's any activity will be July 8th, and probably won't see anything for at least a few days after that. But I'll continue to monitor the docket and report what I see going on in that case. The other thing is, spoke with your new building official today. You will the House Bill, I think it's 803, significant changes to building departments around the state. One of them is building departments have to move away from valuation methods of calculating building permits and it has a quick turnaround on it because July 1 is the implementation date. So your building department is working on that, working to mirror what other jurisdictions in the county will be doing because everybody's dealing with the same crunch as Flagler Beach. Some cities I work with have much bigger problems. Those that use outside providers, it complicates that even further. But you may be seeing a resolution in June, and that's why you're seeing that. It is to update your building department fees so that they conform with the new statute when it kicks in on July 1. Just some other parts of that bill that you may be interested in or may have constituents who are interested in. The biggest one is that it is putting a threshold on most single-family residential building work valued less than $7,500. If it's electrical, if it's plumbing, if it's specialized trades, those are still going to require permits. But if it's just a general kind of construction project at a single-family residential structure and the valuation is less than $7,500, they may well be exempt from any permitting. So you may see projects, or you may hear from constituents after July 1 that are seeing small residential projects going on. You may get that phone call, hey, did they have a permit? Well, the law's changed, and so they may well not have had a permit, but they may legally have not had a permit. So I wanted to give you that heads up before it kicks in July 1. That's it for me.
Drew, any thoughts, or should this be directed to Edgar about the special session coming up, property tax?
Edgar's probably better situated than me. I'm probably sitting in the same boat as all of you are, learning about it from the governor's speech the other day.
Okay, thank you.
City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I'd like to congratulate Chief Lance Blanchett, Deputy Chief Schoenbrod, Sergeant Guerrero, Officers Gray and Rodriguez, and thank you to the officials of the Santa Maria Church for the use of their facility for last night's ceremony, and a very big thank you to Mr. Johnny Lugerai and the Oceanside staff for their incredible dinner buffet. That type of support for the police department and the city staff that also attended is greatly and humbly appreciated. I'd also like to thank Acting Chief Jennifer Fiveash for her transitional leadership and the remaining men and women of the department who are dedicated to continuing to serve this community. Parks Committee is scheduled to meet on June 3rd. The CRA Advisory Board is scheduled to meet on June 8th. The next Thursday's show and tell is June 18th. I'd like to thank Commissioner Santori and Commissioner Spradley for stopping by the initial one. They were the only two people that stopped by. And that, I think Commissioner Santori had an extensive discussion with Mr. Jones about the wastewater treatment plant and things like that. So I think that was probably at least from my perspective, that was the most productive conversation that you had that evening. But it was the wastewater treatment plant. Mr. Eric Whitwam from Facilities and my department were there that evening. Current status of several projects. I have a teleconference with SunTrail staff on Monday to discuss the project status and funding of that project. The TPO rankings, which I shared with you, the two city projects for which I prepared an application. One continues to be ranked second among traffic operations and local initiatives. That's the reconfiguration of Moody Boulevard. To do a study, we're not reconfiguring Moody Boulevard. Let's do a study. That's ranked number 2. And the number 1 ranking project was replacing and extending the boardwalk. What was officially or originally phase 3 of the Beach Walk project. That is actually ranked the number 1 bicycle and pedestrian project. So we'll keep those moving forward. I have to complete some other documents for the boardwalk one. Those are also due June 1st. Paid parking RFQ will be posted on Monday, June 1st. And please be advised that during our weekly meetings, the week of June 8th, we'll have some preliminary budget discussions with all of you to talk about what we're initially looking in for the budget and looking for your feedback of what sort of projects or concerns you have about the budget coming forward. The budget will be presented to you in accordance with the charter on July 15th. And finally, our fine grant presentation is in Cocoa Beach on Saturday, June 20th. So I'll be going down that morning. The presentation's at 2 o'clock in front of the Fine Commission. So I'll be down there making a presentation. That's the Custer Park project, and I got to look into giant slides. So that's all. Oh, and finally, I do have the response to former Commissioner Bellhumer's questions. So those are provided to you. Ms. Overstreet has a copy electronically as well. So, Pending any questions?
Yeah, I got a question. Yeah, I got a question for you. Do you mind just clarifying for the record, about the rankings on the TPO, specifically the 100 corridor one that, got ranked on there, just so people know that what the difference, what a study is and, you know, what that all entails exactly?
That was ranked 16th.
Or,
No, it came out, it was originally ranked number 2. That was our 2025 application, and that built upon the original Charette and Downtown Master Plan to study the reconfiguration, which a fancy word for narrowing Moody Boulevard from Flagler Avenue to A1A, and putting additional on-street parking, having one travel lane and on-street parking. So that the ranking is to do the feasibility study to see whether that makes any sense or not. So that's all it is. It's like, let's look at it, and they may come back and say, this is a great idea or this is a bad idea. But that's all it is at this point, and it's the same thing we asked for the boardwalk. It's a feasibility study to extend the boardwalk and replace the boardwalk. So these are both 2 feasibility studies. Construction is nowhere in the immediate future, or reconfiguration is nowhere in the immediate future.
thank you.
I can follow up with that, and who's funding that? Is it TPO or the state?
We applied for TPO funding. Actually, surprisingly, we were the number 1 ranking for the boardwalk. Even though we had 0 match listed, we still scored the highest. And usually you can more or less pad your score or improve your score. Not pad it, that's the wrong word. You can improve your score by increasing the amount of your match. And if you look at the rankings that I sent to you, you'll see that ours is number 1 scoring was 0% match, and most of the other ones had at least a 10% match. So right now those are, I'd have to look at what the funding level was for the Moody Boulevard one, but I know for the boardwalk, because we're looking at trying to tie that in with the Sun Trail as well. So that'll be part of our discussion on Monday.
Any other questions for city manager? I had a question for you, city manager. It's a little early yet, but have you been able to connect with the developer of Summertown and Veranda Bay about that park? So we aren't just going after the fine grant, we could go after more?
We have discussions scheduled about that park, about Veterans Park, and other amenities and requirements that he is slated to do both on the Veranda Bay side and the Summertime. So
Okay.
we are scheduled, we continue to have those discussions.
Right. His residents, it would be direct benefit to them, so there's a lot of interest there. And it would just be good, rather than that 50, if we tackle that park start to finish with, rather than phase it, get it all done one fell swoop. All right. Assistant Chief.
Mr. Martin actually took a lot of my thunder. We had a very successful event last night. It was attended by well over 80-plus people, and it was the first in the history of the Flagler Beach Police Department, and it was just a great event for everybody to come out and celebrate. Some of you were there. I thank you for this support. The other thing I want to talk briefly about is you may see or have seen a press release from the Flagler County Sheriff's Office in reference to the arrest of a murder suspect that lived here in Flagler Beach. Just for clarification, things that weren't mentioned in that press release is we had been working with Virginia detectives for almost 2 years on this case. The actual warrant only came out Monday. We knew his whereabouts. We were working with them diligently. And when the warrant came out, it was unfortunate timing that he was in hospital. He was in the hospital for several nights. And him being at the hospital, we obviously knew where he was when that warrant actually came live on Monday, and the county went in and grabbed him. So he will be extradited back to Virginia. But we were on it for like 2 years. So, all right, just for clarification. Thank you.
All right. Penny. Mayor. Is your mic on?
Earlier. Thank you.
Mr. Santori.
Yes, I wanted to thank everyone for the Wickline Playground. That was a huge success. I had a really good time there with everyone, and my daughter had a fantastic time. Everything looks great there, so I really appreciate it. I was worried that she would be too old to enjoy it, but she keeps asking to go back, and that's a good sign. Um, Thank you to Chief Fiveash. I met with her today at the department and got a tour and got to discuss with her any concerns I had. She answered them, and I appreciate her leadership there and look forward to see what you can do. And I went to the meeting at the Friends of A1A Scenic, that meeting, and I think one of the topics was their concern about us moving the potential projects around for the boardwalk, for the Sun Trail. So it's just, I didn't have a lot of good answers for them. Just wanted to keep it on our radar. Those questions might come up. And at the end of the meeting, the DOT representative mentioned there was like 42 grants from the feds that would be, I guess it was paused in 2022, that they were going to green light again. So I'm not sure if we had any on there, but I will follow up with them and see if we can qualify for any.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Spradley.
Thank you. A couple of things that have already been mentioned that are worth mentioning again. The Wickline Center presentation and opening and ribbon cutting, a lot of us were there for that. It really was awesome to finally see a project that had been in the books for years, and it has a great appearance. It really looks nice. And I remember when I moved here 20 years ago, it was functional then, but it didn't look anything like the new toys look and the new grounds there. So that was a great job, and I know many commissioners over the years, some are here, some are not, who had a part in that, as well as members of the public. So that was a job well done. I also spoke with Deputy Chief Fiveash before the meeting, and I just want to say, on a personal level, I appreciate her stepping in at a time that she was scheduled to be out of state permanently, and yet she's back here helping us. So I really appreciate that, not just as a commissioner, but personally. So thank you for that. I got a message today from local civil engineer Paul McKitka, who was not able to be here because of illness. He gave me a report that he would ask that I give tonight about PTO. And he said City Manager Martin may give you the items, and you basically both said the exact same thing. So I hope you're listening, Paul, because your job was done. And last thing, when I graduated from law school in 1988, there was a relatively new process that was being advocated as sort of the groundswell effect of something called alternative dispute resolution, which has found its way into the legal practice in a very large way. What that means is the focus on arbitration, mediation, encouraging parties to talk and work out problems instead of litigation. And because once litigation happens, now you've got two parties or more parties embedded in concrete on their positions. And ADR, it worked its way into our legal system, and it's been a very good process, and I see it after 35 years coming more and more into play. Why do I say that? Well, just a note, one of the things that we do here as commissioners kind of relates to ADR, and that is we have weekly meetings. All of the commissions are scheduled with our city manager. And so that means that 50 hours a year, we have the city manager's undivided attention. And so I use that time to both discuss upcoming agendas, agenda items that are already handled, and now we have to have certain things implemented, and to get things off my chest. And so for me, it's a very good way to get things resolved, to get things off my chest, things off his chest, and it is a matter of resolving to some degree any differences of opinion or things like that. And I know that, and I'm not picking on Commissioner Cunningham, but it's my understanding that Mr. Martin and Mr. Cunningham don't meet, and I don't think they've met a single time this year. So we're sitting here at the end of May, so that's over 20 hours of time. And, Commissioner Cunningham has been consistent, nearly from the beginning about his desire to change city managers. And I just can't help, it just screams to me that those criticisms are coming from Commissioner Cunningham, and some may be valid, they all may be valid, I don't know, but I know that we're missing 20-some hours this year of potential conversation, head-to-head, have a conversation. And so all I'm suggesting is that I think it would be a good idea to at least consider having these meetings and see if things can be worked out. I think it may definitely help. Thank you.
I think, well, you stole some of my thunder. Well, we're going to continue doing comments, but since we're on the subject, so I've been having online, which we should never do because it's so toxic, but online social media somewhat debating with phantom profiles and everything, and some people have seen it, some haven't, but one of the things I've said over and over is, I am of the belief that what we plan to gain much more by working with the city manager than what we will put at risk by making a change. Commissioner Sherman and I have been through city manager changes. I've been through multiple. How many have you been through?
Just the one.
Oh, okay. I mean, I've been through Larry and then Whitson and, then all the interims. And, I mean, I was attending meetings back when Bruce Campbell was here, so I was even through that. But as a member of the public, I was still attending all the meetings and everything. None of us are perfect. And this is not directed at anything other than just the general populace and all the phantom mystery profiles that reach out to me. And, it's so easy to say, do this and oversimplify things. But as somebody that has been through multiple changes, if you want to put the city 2 years behind on stuff, that's how you do it. Because once the city manager's out, the city goes into instant survival mode, and all of the big things that, for instance, Dale's working on, he's working on like millions of dollars for that extra money for the pier stuff, and I'm probably saying it wrong, but there's millions there, and then there's another grant that's another $1.5 million, then there's another grant. All of that stuff's gone. So you're missing out on tens of millions of dollars that you will not get with any interim person. Then you're talking about an unlimited amount of time that you don't know to get another person in place. And then when you're done with that, then that person has to then get up to speed, which takes well over a year, no matter how good they are. And then at the end of that, you don't even know if you got a better person than the one that was there, unless you have somebody where, for instance, the last person, Commissioner Sherman and I had, the unfortunate, we had to go through that process, but that was unavoidable. The city was in turmoil, it was in bad shape. It was the right call, and it was, and that's how we ended up in the spot where we're at, where stuff is getting done. And there is more now, for better or for worse, right? All these phantom naysayers that are reaching out to me, for better or for worse, there's more now getting done than any of the times I've been attending meetings. And I've been coming to this meeting room for 12 years now. And I was a big fan of Larry. Larry was getting stuff done. He had to deal with hurricanes and all that, and that's what slowed productivity there. But if you look at just, are we moving the city forward? Are we getting stuff done? Are we getting grants? Are we getting money? Are we doing things that we would expect city manager to do? Factual, it's not really up for debate because nobody will be able to prove me wrong on this one. We are getting more now done than going all the way back to when I first started sitting in this room. But I just think that if we continue to help guide function as a team, I think we'll get even more done. And it's not anything wrong. Like everybody has their thoughts, and I respect that. It's fine. But that's just my thought. Is I think while nobody's perfect, we are getting more now done, and I am not willing to risk turning that apple cart upside down. Because we got a good apple cart right now. It's not perfect, but it works and it does its job. That's where I'm at. Just on that topic, Commissioner Sherman, what you got?
I'll keep it brief. The park was great for the opening. My little one loved it. I'd like to see more continually improving the CRA district completely. I think this is like we talked about earlier in the week. This is the start, and I want to continue pushing that lever up. I think we're moving in the right direction, and maybe it's the basketball courts in a couple of years and the tennis courts getting resurfaced, and just really start taking a lot more pride in the downtown district. And I think this, again, I think we're really moving in the right direction. And it's great to see this playground. I think somebody else had mentioned it. We've been talking about it for years, and finally seeing it come into fruition is fantastic. So that's all I got, Mr. Chairman.
Hey, Commissioner Cunningham.
First, Commissioner Spradley, I don't meet with Dale on purpose, and that's my business, not yours. So that's my answer to that. There's a reason I don't meet, but I'm not going to say it right now. And I had a lot to talk about with the wastewater plant and the unnecessary need for the reverse osmosis that you said in the last meeting. We eliminate the I&I, you don't have to have RO at the wastewater plant. I don't know who's giving you that information, but they're incorrect. If you eliminate the I&I, you don't have to have reverse osmosis because the water's already clean, or it doesn't have all the chemicals in it to be treated. And reverse osmosis facility costs close to $1 million a year just to operate. Enormous amount of electricity is used. That's a major energy consumption of a wastewater plant, is a reverse osmosis system. That's why I believe this whole thing needs to be rethought and evaluated to reduce the I&I, target the areas where it's the worst, between 23rd and 25th on South Daytona, and eliminate 27% of infiltration water that's going all the way to the plant and being treated, the bad water. That could even put us closer to being able to have reused water, and could reduce the size of the wastewater plant from $1.5 million to $1 million, which would save another $5 or $10 million. I just believe it needs to be looked at again by somebody else. That's all I got.
All right. As far as the water infiltration and the wastewater treatment plant, me not being a subject matter expert, I totally agree with it, and the reason why is going all the way back in this, I think, predates city manager, is back when Ben was here. We were told numerous times, if we can address I&I, that will get us under the threshold to deal with RO. The problem was I&I. It was completely botching the whole system. It would be really good, and I hate using this word, a study, or something where we figure out where this I&I is coming from. And which, I think you can, because you know which lift stations are doing all the work or something like that. I don't know this stuff. here's what I know is, can we look at where we're getting that to at least figure out if we can get I&I addressed enough to push us below the threshold for RO? Is that possible?
The challenge is, we are aware, as Commissioner Cunningham has said, we are aware where the lift stations is. The problem is, the anticipation is that a bulk of the I&I is coming from the service laterals that lead from the street to residences. That would be the property owner's responsibility to replace those laterals. We can line all the mains we want, but if the I&I is coming from those pipes, which have never been addressed, that lead from the sewer main to your house, that's where the belief that a lot of the I&I that makes it to the lift stations is coming from. So we can slip line all the mains we want, but you're still going to have a lot in. And at Commissioner Cunningham's suggestion, we are going to put in next year's budget a smoke camera so we can roll the cameras through the mains and do more studies. We want to do smoke testing. I know smoke testing was done here a while ago. Those are the kind of things that we have to do to more precisely pinpoint. But we're aware of the fact that there's a lot of I&I flowing into the lift station. But where exactly is that I&I coming from? And that's the belief that the lines that lead to people's homes, what may be the problem, that burden would fall on the property owners to repair their service lines.
I'm going to say the unpopular thing. Yeah, that's very, very valid. It's not fair to all the citizens in the city to have to foot the bill for an RO system that's potentially being caused by a few people that have their own stuff in disrepair. I would say that those citizens, we should find out who they are and have them fix it. I know that that'll make me really unpopular with a couple citizens probably, but you're talking huge expense for an RO system.
We think the I&I on the service leads is more than just a couple of people. That's not what's contributing to it. It's not just one or two residents. The pipes, the service leads, have never been addressed unless there was a new construction or a rebuild or something like that. But yeah, we'll do the study, we'll run the cameras, we'll find out that data. But right now, the plan is the reverse osmosis because, and when you look at some of the data that McKim and Creed has given us, yeah, there's that issue, and in some ways, that I&I can be beneficial because the amount of it helps dilute some of the other bad stuff that's in the water, whether it's iron, whether it's the salinity, things like that. So yes, it's a complicated issue. And there's experts out there that are a heck of a lot better at examining that detail and giving us recommendations, and that's who we'll rely upon.
Yeah, if there's a way to just formally look at that, like what Commissioner Cunningham's talking about is, because you're talking tens of millions of dollars here, and we, in only my opinion, should not be spending that if we have services that are in disrepair that we can fix.
I'm not familiar with the tens of millions of dollar number. I'm not sure where that's coming from.
I'm talking about for the RO and the entire setup to make that happen.
It was $1.5 million or $3 million. That's what we put in the budget for the state appropriation, which may actually still be in the budget. Edgar's looking at that, and we have an appropriation request from Congressman Fine for $6 million. So that funding may be accounted for, but again, we're still early in the process.
Right, but then you start talking about that's only for the RO, that doesn't include deep injection and et cetera, and that's when all the really expensive stuff started coming out.
Well, the deep injection would be in lieu of the reverse osmosis.
When we had a discussion, you started throwing out some really big numbers. I don't know what they are off the top of my head.
The deep well injection, just to run a test well, you're probably talking, at least from what McKim and Creed has said, you're talking $8 to $10 million to do a test well that may not be productive.
Right. I think that's what I'm latched onto. I just heard a lot of money.
That's a deep well injection, which right now we're not going that path. And believe me, we're trying to get creative solutions. I approached the city of Bunnell. There's the city of Bunnell. They get rid of theirs. for instance, their golf course out there, what's the big Grand Preserve, whatever the big one is. They can't, according to Dr. Jackson, they can't get enough reuse. They want more and more and more than Bunnell can provide. So I said, what if we ran a line, a reuse line, out to Bunnell? And I asked Mr. David King of Mead and Hunt. He's like, well, yeah, that'd be a hell of a lot cheaper than deep well injection. And if Bunnell, and how can we turn this into a countywide initiative, whether it's helping spray the reuse at the airport, which is large, Palm Coast, Bunnell. So yeah, we have until 2031 to get this resolved. So yeah, we're exploring those other options.
And as a side note on places to send reuse, the county had a meeting on what their plan is for the land over in the Beulah area. And there's also a lot of potential there too. If you pull up.
We've actually approached the state. We're going to try and get a wet weather waiver, but our early conversations with the DEP are that they will not allow us to put reuse into Bulow Creek because Bulow Creek drains into the intercoastal, which is what they want us to get away from in the first place. So we talked about Graham Swamp, we've talked about Bulow Creek, we've talked about recharging all those wetlands, and the preliminary response was no, you're not allowed to do that.
Got it. All right, the other things I got, it also is about the park. Looks great. I'm very glad it's not a splash pad. Very glad. Great job, Chief, on the pinning ceremony. I was there for that. And I'll tell you what, that was great seeing the families out there. Commissioner Mealy was out there. Commissioner Bryan was out there. Chief Downey was out there. It was just good seeing a lot of those faces. You can pull a good crowd. And the only other thing I got, and this is not for action. This is something that for y'all to think about. Okay, so we just got done working through the annexation process of Miranda Bay, Summertown, etc. Y'all need to put some thought into, does the election ordinance need to change? And if so, in what way? So, at some point we're going to need to have a discussion on that. The only reason I'm just bringing this up now is y'all need to put your thinking caps on, because we talk about doing these workshops. This at some point will need to be a topic on, does it need to change? And if so, how? And that would probably be a multiple workshop type thing. It's also a charter review, and I don't even know if we can wait for a charter review, because that's a couple of years out.
With that, I wouldn't. With something like that, I would not wait for charter review. You don't have to wait for charter review to put a charter referendum out to the populace. Charter review just is the process by which we know we have a charter review coming.
Right. So we don't want to wait on that. That would end up needing to go to referendum. But the discussion for that, this is this would take a while to put together. And it requires a lot of feedback from the citizens, so discussions and thought probably need to start happening now with that. I just wanted to kind of put that out there so we can start to get that ball rolling, because at some point I'll probably be asking y'all, can we get a workshop going on this? But we got to get some thought on that, because there's all kinds of different directions that can go in.
How soon were you thinking that you would want, were you looking to get this on the March ballot, or you think,
this would be starting discussions on in the fall maybe or something.
Okay. I think it's definitely warranted.
Well, this fall start discussions.
Well, I was thinking for the March election for our city. I'm sorry, our city. Oh.
It wouldn't hit ballot for probably. It wouldn't be whatever cycle's coming up. It would be that next cycle. Right. I don't think it's a high sense of urgency, because again, these areas have a long runway. So the time until they're built up, is not now. It's just something we need to think about.
And I agree with that, and kind of to add to the bucket of things that you're thinking about in that, I think timing probably is one of those, because I agree that you're probably, if the direction ultimately were districts, you're probably premature for districts if you were wanting to establish those districts now, because you don't have the population there to support a district. So you might be premature in creating a district out there at this point. But I think certainly now is the time to have a plan so that when that population starts to build in that area, you're ready to go with the ballot, the ballot amendment. And because there's always a possibility that a ballot initiative doesn't pass, and then you're back to the drawing board. So you don't want to wait too late to start the process.
Yeah, it gets very complicated because if you have districts, you got to worry about, can you fill the districts? And if you have districts, you can also add at-large areas, and it's a lot of time, a lot of discussion. That's why we need to probably start it now. So that's all I got. I just wanted to put that on the radar at least. And that's all I got. And with that, we will open this up public comment. And any members of the public wish to speak? Long time no see.
Sorry, I don't know if I'm speaking as a resident, my address is confidential, or a staff member, or both right now.
If you can, just state your name for the record.
Crystal Nobre, sorry. So in preparation for House Bill 2031, are we going to be prepared with the wastewater treatment plant and everything? My question with that is regards to because of the reused water. And we only have 45 to 50 max PSI coming out of the water treatment plant right now. And if we were to open the purple piping along with that, I mean, our water flow for residents and businesses is, the PSI is going to decrease. So if we're not prepared, just because the infrastructure degradation due to older, basically infrastructure, our pipes are old, they're 60 years old if they haven't been replaced or re-sleeved. You're going to always have that additional stormwater flowing into the sewer system. So that's always going to add to the I&I. So unless we're replacing everything, are we going to need the R&O? So that's just my question and thought. So thanks.
All right, thank you. Anyone else for public comment?
Edward Lansdowne, South 9th Street. I also just want to say thank you for everybody who attended the opening of WIC line. I'm a member of the committee that has been working on that. The ad hoc committee really gets all the credit for it, but they're not here to speak. But it was a great turnout. And what I really want to share, since everybody already knows that, is I live on 9th Street, so I see the population of what that park normally gets and what it now gets. And there's a lot more attendance and people that enjoying that park now than there used to be. So thanks to the city and everyone turning out.
Thank you.
Good evening, Melanie Thompson, John Anderson Highway, unincorporated. I don't have any notes on, it's impromptu. First of all, Dale, when you talked to Mr. Belshie about helping with the parks and this and that, could you ask him when he's going to fix those breaches on John Anderson Highway that have been asking for 9 months to have them fixed? I'm tired of the excuses. The other thing is about the study or whatever about Moody going from 4 lanes to 2. My only thing is that it's an evacuation route off the barrier island besides the bridge and Hammock and High Bridge. So you may want to take that in consideration. I'm sure FDOT is not going to like that if you're going to whittle down the lanes. And my other thought was you're still looking for money for beach maintenance, I believe, but I don't know all the details of that. But my suggestion, and just wondering if, I know I pay property taxes and I have a big sum coming off going towards school stuff. I'm also paying a percentage of everything that I buy going towards school stuff. I was wondering if I need to adjust the county, or if maybe you guys can think about it, if there's any way to take some of that allocated money that's going to the schools that could be just taken at least from the sales tax. Everybody does sales tax. If you're looking for property owners, if you're looking for people that use the beach, if you're looking for this, you're looking for that. Everybody buys stuff. It will affect everybody contributing to beach maintenance. So I just want to throw that out there. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else for public comment? All right, seeing no more closed public comment. First comment was about the reuse water. City manager, you could probably take that one.
Yeah, it was part of the earlier discussion, and yeah, the reuse will be coming from the wastewater plant, so it shouldn't affect the water pressure coming from the water plant, but, yeah, that's all part of the discussion going forward.
All right, the next one was about the park. So, the next comment was about the breaches on John Anderson Highway. I'm not familiar with, what that is, city manager.
Yeah, yeah, it's landscaping and buffering. Ms. Thompson sent me an email. I've been in conversation with Mr. Belchi about it, and it is in the process of being addressed.
Okay, so that's a code issue.
No,
Okay.
it's a commitment from the developer. Let's put it that way.
Okay, but it is being addressed?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And, study 4-lane, 2-lane, we haven't even pursued that yet. So the sales tax comment was interesting because one of the pieces of beach management was a piece of sales tax. I mean, anything can get brought up, but I don't think we would be in any type of position to say, take from the schools and give to us. That would probably not go well politically. Plus, legally, you can't do that. Yeah, that money's spoken for. There's a different tax for that. But the concept of everyone contributing just a little bit seems to be well received, even with half of the Palm Coast elected people there, because they have spoken in favor of it. But it seems to be popular actually with all the municipalities except our county commission. Primarily our own county commission representative who is supposed to represent our best interests. But they have their own reasons, so that would be a county thing. We haven't heard anything from them about that. They have a lot on their plate. Commissioner Sproul, you got anything? Have you heard anything about that?
The answer is no.
That's the best way to put it. But yes, and we also have ongoing meetings about that too, the multi-municipality meetings where that does get brought up. And so I know that Commissioner Spradley and I will, at the next one, be asking for some follow-up or where things are on that. And it'll be interesting to see where that ends up. And I think that tackled all the talking points. Yes, that's what I got. So with that, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.